Hello and welcome to Get Involved Referee. We analyse all the weekend action from the SPFL Premiership, look ahead to the big Old Firm Scottish Cup semi-final at the weekend, and we also talk about the English Championship and the difference between referees in England and Scotland, because our special guest tonight is Alex Rae. Alec, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining myself, Lindsay Heron, Steve Conroy and Des Roache.
It's a pleasure. It's good to be invited along with some influential referees.
First of all, commiserations, Alec, obviously in the situation at Reading. That's obviously very harsh on you and Paul Ince. It's a difficult one.
What an incredible start to the show. You're just
welcome, Alex.
Yeah, it's always nice to... No, listen, we were obviously disappointed. We obviously had a 6 points deduction, and ultimately it's cost us our job. You know, I think they'd be sat on 49 points currently, and that had about 18th in the league, so it was a tough way to go. But listen, 14 months down the road, it's great to be back in at a very good level.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come back to that, Alec, if you don't mind. The big news today, guys, which well anticipated and expected, Willie Collum will be the referee for the Celtic Rangers Scottish Cup semi-final. Steve?
Yep, as we predicted last week, and going by the appointments for the weekend just passed, it was clear it was going to be Willie that was doing it. A
good decision, do you think, Des, or the obvious decision, perhaps?
I think it was the obvious decision. We'd spoken about it prior, and we've seen obviously John Beaton was sent to Celtic Motherwell at the weekend. Nick Walsh was at Rangers Aberdeen. Willie was put out to St Mirren Motherwell. So they're obviously just trying to pick their moves, a wee bit of chess moves, what they do with the SFA. They pick their appointments and put people positionally where they're meant to be. But yeah, it's, what would you say, Steve? A safe pair of hands to an extent.
As safe as it can be in the circumstances, yeah.
Yeah, but I think Willie was the one that was going to get it.
He was always going to get it. Yeah.
Alex, so much riding on this game. It goes without saying. It's a season-defining match for both clubs, really. Especially Rangers. If they lose it, they're staring down the barrel of their rivals winning the treble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, listen, we always touch on the referee. Obviously, when we hear that Willie was going to be the referee, I always kind of go, whoa. I do, just by instinct. I think he's prone to the odd mistake. Thankfully, VAR may well get him out of trouble on occasion now. But the problem that the Scottish football has is there's only a pool of about 4 or 5 guys who are really qualified to take on this tie, and as the guys are saying there, then they've obviously kind of shuffled it about over the recent weeks, and it has to be constantly that you're moving the pieces so that somebody's got to ref it at various times.
Stephen McLean on VAR as well. Don Robertson, fourth official, I think. So
solid enough. Confidence in the fourth official in the VAR for those games. So I think, as Alex said, if he needs dug out of a hole, then he's got a good team behind him. So good, solid backup.
It's the first derby he's done since last season, as he did the final league meeting between the two sides, which Celtic won 2-1 at Ibrox. In fact, overall, his record, he's been in charge of 9, and Rangers have only won once.
Yeah, I'd say that's more to do with the teams rather than the referee. Willie is prone to be quite reactive, shall we say. But yeah, I think at this stage of the season and at this point, I think this is probably the best appointment that we could have at this moment in time. I've said it before, I think Nick Walsh is our best referee that we have, but you can't have the same referee doing all the big games. It's got to be spread about. So Willie's got experience. Don is a very safe, capable fourth official. He'll make sure the dugouts are in order. And again, at Hampden with that big space, there shouldn't be terribly much to deal with. And Stephen McLean, ex-FIFA official, he's in VAR. So yeah, he should be able to give Willie any advice that he needs. Hopefully it doesn't come. I'm not saying that it won't come. But I'm looking forward to watching the game. Let's just put it that way.
Well, he's done big ones, big explosive full firm games before, Alec. He did the 2019-20 League Cup final when he sent off Jeremy Frimpong and Rangers got a penalty which they missed. And the Chris Julian goal proved to be offside, actually, but there was no VAR in these days. So
yeah, listen, I think the guys have had, my experience with Willie is that he is very reactive. When there's a major instance, he's just the manner in which he approaches it. It's almost as if he's wanting to go in the middle and cause that. I think at the particular times it's easier to diffuse things in your manner and your demeanour and how you approach them. So listen, the one thing we can all agree on is he's vastly experienced. You know, he's done major European games over the years as well. And as you said, he's obviously covered the Old Firm game. And when you look at the pool as well, you know, I think, listen, someone's got to do it. We could be sitting here all day long. So as Des said there, hopefully it goes unscathed throughout the game.
But we've talked about it all season, guys, haven't we? There haven't been too many flashpoints in these games thus far. Bit of controversy about the Morelos goal that was disallowed in the last league meeting, which seemed to split opinion. But there haven't been any other real massive talking points. Maybe the Connor Goldson handball at Ibrox as well.
Even so, going back to the days when I was involved with Celtic and Rangers, though, those two are nothing. So somebody you disagree with a foul, you disagree with a handball, that's nothing compared to what it was before. And they have been, and we've given credit to both sets of players, both sets of management, that it seems to be a different mindset, and they're very controlled and they're very calm, and they go about their business professionally. But as you said, much more eloquently than I could possibly say it, this is a season-defining weekend. One side doesn't want to go down with nothing, and the other side is desperate for a treble. I don't want
Stakes are high, yeah.
I don't want to put a curse on anything, but if we get through this one without incident, I'll be very surprised.
No, I think there's going to be explosions. Yes, I think there's going to be explosions. And do you know what? That's why we're all football fans. That's why we love the game. So let's just hope it goes well. Let's hope Willie gets the vast majority of things correctly, but let's enjoy the spectacle.
From a football side of things, Alec, the pressure's all on Rangers, of course, isn't it? And after losing last weekend to Aberdeen, they're on a bit of a downer as well. So, I mean, from your side of things, how can they overcome the hurdles and try and win this game? Well,
they can obviously take confidence from the last game. I thought Rangers did very well. I think if you go back to the final, I thought they were very passive. You know, Celtic coasted it, and so if you're talking about a game plan and how you're going to go about getting after Celtic, you have to get about them as a high press. You have to get in their faces. You cannot allow them to dictate. And they've had some success in some ways, but ultimately it's about results. You know, people look at that and go, it wasn't a bad performance, and the Morelos goal, and it's all about winning. The performance doesn't really matter, and you know, because that's what the fans are actually kind of remembering is the actual result. And as you said, it's all or nothing for Rangers. You know, the pressure is very much on Rangers to produce a performance. I don't think yesterday's performance helped them in any shape or form. I thought they were very tepid. We've all been up at Pittodrie. It's a very hostile place. You need to roll up your sleeves. I thought the first half they did relatively well, but in the second half, you know, they were second best throughout, and I think they'll be looking for some sort of reaction. And the one thing I don't really like is constantly, we have to bounce back and we go again, and all that usual jargon you get off the players. You're talking on the pitch. Listen,
absolutely.
You know, we don't want to be doing the usual kind of talking. I think too much is getting said from the Rangers side of things. I think they should just kind of keep it in house and then show what you're made on the pitch.
And is there anything tactically you think Michael Beale can do? I mean,
I said I think if you can get in their faces a high press, which would result in plenty of energy, plenty of legs, and get after Celtic. Because if you sit off them, Celtic have got the quality, they've got the players at the top end, middle. You know, I think Callum McGregor's one of the standout players, if not the best player in Scotland. You know, he's a leader. And you guys are just talking, will there be fireworks? Will there be this kind of... I would suggest that people start to get in. Celtic, it's been far too easy. You know, you've got to be within the confines of the laws of the game. Don't be going crazy like the old days when players were getting sent off willy-nilly. But at the same token, you have to get in their faces. You have to roll up your sleeves. You have to show a level of competitiveness.
Of all the teams this season, St Mirren are the team that have showed you how to play against Celtic and win.
Yeah.
St Mirren of all people.
I was at St Mirren on Saturday. I went to watch, and it was the most passive that I've ever seen them. I thought it was ridiculous how much they stayed off. But give credit to Dale, give credit to Derek McInnes. He set his team up to nullify what St Mirren were doing. But no, to agree with Alex, I think that Celtic have got that much energy, pressure going forward from all areas of the pitch, from defence, midfield, forwards. I really do agree. I think that Rangers have to get in their face. They have to be aggressive. They have to be on the front foot, because if you don't, Celtic can split you apart.
It's a type of match where if Michael Beale can win it, it's a colossal springboard for him, isn't it?
I think the Rangers fans are just looking for some sort of spark, you know. And I know it's not a good barometer where you're looking at social media, you know, people are kind of complaining and things. You know, he's brought 2 players to the football club in January. You know, they seem to have done okay, because sometimes it's difficult to settle in. You know, when you look at Raskin and Cantwell, they've done all right. I still think there's more to come for these guys. And you need a couple of more transfer windows. Even if you go back to the Steven Gerrard time, it took him a couple of years to actually get to that point. And I think that's exactly where they're at the moment. You know, he's mentioned 4 or 5 additions in the summer. I'm thinking at the minimum, the bare minimum, and you have to look at real quality. Having worked down in England the last 14 months, there is some real good, talented players you can get there for the wages that Rangers are paying. And it's just about going about your doing your due diligence, seeing who's available and who you can get in, because obviously there'll be other suitors with the money that's floating about the Championship. But you know, I think that people have to calm down a little bit when it regards to Michael Beale. You have to give him time to settle in, get his own men in, get his philosophy, a good pre-season under his belt. But this would be the springboard. This was the catalyst. If he could do that, it would I don't mean buy him time, but it would settle down the Rangers fans, knowing that there's reinforcements coming this summer, and then have a concerted go next year.
But the flip side is, of course, it sets you back massively, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And listen, we've all been running about Scottish football for long enough. Second is absolutely nowhere.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All to come then at Hampden Park on Sunday afternoon. Don't miss it. 1:30 kickoff. We'll all be analysing that in great detail for sure. Let's just have a look back then at the weekend. We talked about Aberdeen Rangers. An incident there, guys, in terms of the second Aberdeen goal, where Rangers claimed that Fashion Sakala was fouled in the build-up to that goal. Nick Walsh seemed to allow advantage, but then didn't bring the game back for a free kick. Aberdeen won the ball and went on to score. Is it the length of time in the move or the phase of play?
Both. Advantage is still written down as 2 or 3 seconds. And you're on hiding to nothing when you play an advantage. And we've all seen it, that you let it go, and the minute you blow your whistle, somebody breaks away. We've all seen it. And the flip side is that sometimes something like that happens. I don't have an issue. It's debatable whether it was a foul, but you gave it advantage for 2 or 3 seconds. But once you go beyond that, you just roll on. It's not like rugby where you can see the refs waving for advantage, and it seems to go on for days before he brings it back. You know, I'd be happy enough with that kind of thing, but the football ref is stuck with those 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't think Nick. I don't really think he could have done anything else. It didn't have an impact upon the goal being scored. The impact upon the goal being scored was Barisic being unaware that Miovski was moving around him and Barisic was static. So no, I don't have a problem with that. No. I think that was absolutely fine.
And can you explain why Miovski wasn't ruled offside? Because he looks offside because part of his body's in an offside position.
When you see the line drawn, the line drawn shows that his arm was offside.
Yeah.
You can't score a goal with your arm.
Is it his arm or his shoulder and his part of his head or not? Or?
Nah. Des, just for clarity here, because obviously people listen to that. Is it the shirt? Is that with the line?
It's a totally artificial, totally made up line.
T-shirt line.
They call it the T-shirt line, and there's no that makes absolutely no anatomy. You'll
be wearing a Hawaiian shirt, T-shirt when you're going out to play next.
The good old-fashioned word. If the ball hits you in the Oxter, and the ball's going beyond where the circumference of the ball would take you, that's taken as your arm. But it's totally made up. It's nonsense.
No, it's ridiculous. Yeah. But the wording, if I'm correct, is if you're offside with a part of your body that you're legally allowed to score a goal with, then you're offside. So you can't score a goal with your arm. That's offside. And we're going to come on to that later on. But I'm fine. Miovski, as tight as it was, you've got to give VAR and the assistant referee absolute plaudits for getting that one correct. Absolutely correct.
Des, listen, I haven't been dealing with VAR, and I haven't had a lot of discussions throughout the course of the season because the Championship didn't have it. See, when you're looking at the images that they're showing on the sports channels, how do they come to that line being across there?
That's all calibrated.
Right,
yeah, that's all calibrated.
From that camera?
from all cameras. All
Right.
cameras are calibrated prior to the matches from Hawkeye.
Right, okay.
Because we don't have as many cameras as obviously they have down in the Premier League.
No, because it's very difficult to gauge, because we're saying there, because I actually thought that Tillman actually might have played him onside. You know, we were all looking at Barisic. Tillman's foot was actually at the top end of the picture as well. So I'm thinking to myself, he's onside anyway. But I was just trying to get clarity of the calibration from the actual cameras.
As far as we're aware, the picture that comes up on the telly, that's the image that VAR gets, as far as we can tell. So that is all calibrated. You know, so I'm not technical in the slightest, so I don't know how they manage it. But that's all. That's all.
You can't work a phone.
No, I still talk about Insta thing and all that sort of stuff. It's all beyond me. But it's all pre-calibrated. So what you see is what is officially seen by the referee team.
I actually thought he was offside. He was onside anyway when I seen Tillman's leg. I was just trying to get a gauge for it, because the lack of cameras in relation to what you would get in English Premiership. So, but I think the offside decision is pretty much nailed on when you're looking at, as you say, the calibrations. It gives you that accurate line.
No, I think his legs were onside, and then obviously he's fantastic header. Terrific header to score the goal. But no, I think that's a good call. I think that's the officials deserve praise for that.
The big talking point last week, guys, of course, was Graeme Shinnie's failure in his appeal, and not only that, but he was given an extra 1-game ban for the sheer audacity of appealing the decision. And the SFA were battered from pillar to post for that one, Steve, not least by PFA Scotland as well, who came out very strongly on it.
Indeed. Including us, and it's kind of enlightening that Alec has, we've been discussing that before we come on, and of a slightly different opinion to us. I thought last week was a shocking decision, and you know, we've said it, not so much from the ref, because we've all refed, we've all made mistakes, we've all made wrong calls. I think VAR calling that as a sending off, I think is beyond me. But I can see Alex's argument about the follow through, but I thought it was a good thumping tackle. But there's none of that mitigation for this week. That was a controlled, I thought quite graceful, excellent tackle.
Yeah, I was just going to come to that. Obviously, as luck would have it, or as fate would have it, a very similar challenge in the St Johnstone Hibs game.
The week after,
you know, where James Jeggo is adjudged to have followed through and caught Conor McLennan of St Johnstone, and he's shown a red card immediately by Craig Napier. I mean, there's no messing around.
Nope. And again, we've discussed it. When you watch it on the telly, the only thing I can see from Craig's point of view is that he was behind it. So, you know, and we've all been there. He's no doubt seen a straight leg. There wasn't a straight leg there, but that's what he's seen. But he's behind it. So he, you know, that's the view that he got. I can't believe that VAR didn't, at the very least, go and say, have a look at that. Despite what we saw in certain BBC issues this week, I cannot believe that VAR didn't get involved in that. But
that's because it's a clear and obvious
error. We've said it before. See, when it's an opinion piece, leave it alone. Nothing to do with VAR. But when it's a clear and obvious error, that's when VAR gets involved. That would have been the perfect situation for VAR to get involved.
I think in that decision now, see if there's a tug of the jersey or a throw-in goes either way. We've all been there, right? That's fine. But see when someone goes in and gives a red card, that's a major decision. Major decision. So you've got to have the fourth official. You've got to have the VAR who are there. Now, for me, you've just stole my words there. That's a controlled challenge. There's no studs up. Yes, you can freeze frame, you can make a still, and it'll look horrific. Okay, I can understand that. A former colleague mentioned on a programme this morning how it was a lunge. It's not a lunge.
Not in a million years.
It's not a lunge at all. The boy's on the ground. Jeggo's on the ground. He's sliding in. Where are you going to put your studs? Alec, if you went for a challenge, is there a potential that your studs may be showing? Of course there is. To me, a million times, that is a good, honest challenge. It's not a red card, but for Craig to come in trigger happy and flash a red card so quickly, I think that's a Graeme Shinnie hangover from last week. I think that is a hangover from last week. But for the fourth official and the VAR official not to get involved, that astounds me.
See, listening to you two guys in terms of the reaction of the referee, it was far too quick. He didn't buy sell any time.
No thinking time
so
at all.
For me, it's about assessing what's going on. You can still administer the red card a couple of, because you're saying about buying yourself time. I thought it was a poor decision. I thought the height of the tackle as well. You know, when he's kind of coming round, it's not as if he's up high, he's endangering round about the middle to top of the shin, knee area. I didn't quite see that, and the fact he actually clearly got the ball and then on the follow through caught him. I just didn't quite see it as endangering that player. I just didn't see it. And I think that's the problem he had, is because he administered that. I heard someone say today that by him administering the red card, then VAR wouldn't get involved with that. But you're saying that they should have, because it was clear and obvious. But not to him, it wouldn't have been clear and obvious.
I would, if it was Steve and I working together, which we've done numerous times, I would have been saying, Steve, or he would have been saying, Des, do you want to have a wee look at that? And I would be quite happy to go and look at it and overturn that decision, as I'm sure you would.
I'd expect, if I was a ref there and I had made that decision, and you know, the current climate with the technology, I'd be expecting somebody to say, go and have a look at that.
Chris Graham was the VAR, so he clearly hasn't spoken to Craig Napier there.
But this is the thing about clarity, Steve, because he could easily have said, you might want to have a look at that, and he's went, no, I've seen it. Could he possibly say, I've seen what I wanted to see?
Absolutely.
So they may well have intervened. And this is the thing about the clarity of...
We don't know.
I was going to say, they could have had that conversation,
but we just don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But he was so quick in, and the bit I didn't like when he's holding the red card up and he's pointing to the player lying on the ground. I thought that was a wee bit body language. I didn't like that. But yeah, that I think the VAR has got to get involved there and say, would you like to have a look?
Feelings are certainly running high on it. I mean, an ex-Hibs legend, if you like, John Collins, went off his head. He said this guy should never work again.
And I saw Lee Johnson saying it was the worst refereeing performance ever. I don't know what Lee Johnson's had in his life, but the bottom line is that we disagree with Craig giving a red card there. Disagree with it. But we've all done it. We've all made mistakes. My issue is that VAR didn't get involved in that. But even if, because we've seen VAR, we've disagreed with an awful lot of what VAR's done. But I'll come back to the fact that our guys were thrown under the bus and put in not fully prepared. And these are the consequences of it. That's not to take away from the fact that I think VAR was wrong, but we've all made mistakes, and to say that neither of them should ever work again is just ludicrous. Plain to the audience.
Yeah, that's. Are you going to sack a player because he has 2 poor games or he makes 2 poor tackles? Of course, I was going to say absolutely not. So you can't. The referee's made, in our opinion, the referee's made an error. Okay.
I think I'd been sacked about 40 times this season alone.
I was about to say, if he's saying that you never work again from that, I've paid into a couple of grounds that John Collins has been plying his trade.
One ground.
What's one ground? What's good for the goose? We've all made mistakes.
The irony is St Johnstone supporters are pointing out to a game last season between the same two sides, ironically, and Craig Napier booked Cammy McPherson for an identical challenge. You know, the follow through and just catching the opponent on the leg.
It was probably a worse challenge.
In fact, I think it probably shows in social media that it was a worse challenge. But anyway,
I think I think this is an issue. You know, when you look at consistency, and I know there'll be degrees of, you know, what you see is a bit more force than others, and when you make that decision. So to compare one with the other, you know, as you said, it was probably worse. So, but how do you get to that there? And I think it goes back to the Shinnie thing from last week. You know, he's got the ball, but on the follow through he's caught it, so it's fresh in his mind, and I think that's partly to blame.
To me, it's a complete Graeme Shinnie hangover. That's what's been.
I agree
in there.
completely, because going by the fact that the SFA, and they'll say that the panel's independent, but the SFA sanction him with an extra game.
Yeah.
And I know they were trying to say that they didn't say it was frivolous. It was what's the phrase? Launching an appeal with little chance of success,
lack of merit or something.
There was 3 caveats, and they all mean it's frivolous.
Wow.
So the SFA have basically told our referees that is a sending off offence, and Craig has done it.
Mm-hmm.
He's done what he's been told.
What I find ridiculous with that SFA statement is we've had VAR since middle of October, and we've had contentious decisions, but they've chosen that one incident to come out and make a statement. They've never done that before, and it was almost a wee bit of arrogance to come out and add an extra game on, saying how dare you challenge our authority. I think that was awful.
Let me ask you a question then. If he's above if I may. If you're both sitting on a panel, because they're most certainly going to appeal this. If they've not done so already.
Yeah, Hibs are. I'm just going to come to that. Hibs.
Sorry, I've just stole your foot.
No. Hibs have launched the appeal against this red card, so very interested to see how that works.
Well, Steve and I certainly won't be on that panel.
No, it's safe to say we'll never be invited on one. But yeah,
if you were sat on it, Steve, what would your stance be? Obviously, would you back down on the decision by Napier?
If I was watching that on a panel, yes, I'd be saying that wasn't a red card.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah, I listen, I think we're unanimous in this decision. I've actually only heard one individual over the course of the last couple of days, people who have actually looked at this instance, and I just find it astonishing.
Do you fully expect the SFA to come out and give him an extra game then?
Wouldn't be in the slightest bit surprised.
No, the backlash that they got last week, they'll not have the cojones to do it.
So, but will they turn down the appeal, or will they uphold it?
Well, it depends on who's on the panel.
And we'll never know that.
You don't know who. There'd be ways of finding out, but it's an independent panel.
Fill us in next week.
It's an independent panel. That's what we'll be told.
Watch this space. It'll be very interesting to see, won't it, lads? Just as a penalty incident in the Hearts game, the demolition of poor old Ross County, 6-1 for the Jambos as they get back onto form. A trip on Lawrence Shankland. It looked fairly clear cut. Are we quite happy with that?
It was a penalty.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of a lazy challenge, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was, anyway. It's kind of one I would do in the fives. It was a clear penalty. Don had a clear, unobstructed look at it, but you can see by his stance, he was caught in two minds. We've all been there. He'll do that less often than most refs, because he's a very good ref. He's not a robot. We're all human. We all make mistakes. It was a penalty. But that's what VAR's there for. Yeah, that's what it was invented for.
Well, see that. Listen, we all have made mistakes. I thought that was as clear cut a penalty as you would see, and as you said, it was his line of sight was quite clear, and our referees holding fire with the decision, knowing that it's going to go to VAR.
I would hope not. I just think, and by the way, see the person that's going home that night thinking, "Oh my God, it's Don." Don is going up the road going, how did I miss that? Now, thankfully, VAR has been used for the correct reasons. And thankfully, David Monroe was able to say, Don, come and look at it. The right decision was come to. Hearts got their penalty, fair play. But nobody needs to tell Don that he made an error there. And Don is a fantastic referee. I'm one of his biggest supporters. He's a great guy, really, really personable. You can see him amongst the teams and the way he's got his rapport. Nobody needs to tell him he made an error. He'll be going up the road and he'll be playing over in his mind, and he'll be absolutely pig sick about it.
Yeah, the only reason why I say this is, and we'll touch on something that happened in the Aberdeen game shortly, but there was another incident in that game as well where I felt, can we go ahead and just...
Please.
So Nick Walsh, later in the second half, when Johnny Hayes goes through, I thought he was trying to buy a penalty, and I thought it was simulation, and he didn't make that decision, and I'm thinking, is he waiting for that to go to VAR? To they go, it was clearly there was no contact, and then they could administer, or could he have booked Johnny Hayes for simulation? And then obviously, if it was a penalty, you can say I'm rescinding the yellow card because there was contact. So I'm just, and the only reason why I'm saying that is because I look at Don's decision there, then I look at Nick Walsh's up at Pataudry. I'm thinking, these guys just taking the easy road here, and this is the first weekend I've really paid a great deal of attention to VAR and refereeing decisions. So that's the only reason why I'm throwing this into the mix at the moment.
It shouldn't make the blindest bit of difference, but I don't know. The conversations that I've had, nobody says that they've changed the way that they're refereeing, take people at their word. But you would maybe have to have even a confidential survey or something to see if there is a difference. But it shouldn't make the blindest bit of difference. But I can see where you're coming from.
It was only the two instances over there, and I'm only watching like highlights over the course of the weekend, and they were two instances. I thought, maybe.
Well, one small load doesn't make a summer. But that, what you can certainly say, not so much with the Nick Walsh one, but with the Don one, he made a mistake.
Yeah,
he didn't call it properly, and you can see by the way that he reacted to it that he was caught rabbit in the headlights. I don't think that he was waiting for anybody to get him out of hole. I think he just misread it.
Just made an error. The Johnny Hayes.
Maybe by the time he thought, play was away, and that's why he didn't give the penalty. That's all I can say.
But the safety net was there, and thankfully, at the end of the day, the right decision was come to, and the right application was come to. The Johnny Hayes one, I don't know, everything was happening so quick. I can understand why you think, is he taking a dive, or is the leg being stuck out? Football's a contact sport. Is a coming together. I wouldn't be rushing to give a penalty kick or give a yellow card for simulation at that point. I would quite happily just go, right, on we go. And there was no really great clamour for it from either team.
The reason why I said that today, I was talking to a former player who's kind of been, since October, he's been pretty much all over VAR and the good and the bad and the ugly with it all, and he just felt as if, and this is you'll know the guy I'm talking about, and he basically said, he says, oh my God, I thought he was trying to con the ref at that time, and my instinct as well was he's tried to buy a penalty there, but it was only just more so that the referee's side of things on the back of that, was it a penalty, was it contact, was it simulation, because obviously we don't want to see any simulation, but would that warrant a yellow card in that instance?
Mm-hmm. I'm not so convinced in that, but theoretically, talking about what you're talking about, if it happens to me and I think it's a dive, then I can caution them for simulation. But because it's a potential penalty or whatever the VAR notice board comes up saying, then
there was a check, wasn't there? There was a check on that instance.
I'm not sure. Remember. I don't think it.
Not sure if there was.
Was there?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But if VAR thought it was different, then VAR can say, no, go and have a look, I think that's a penalty. Mm-hmm. Then you rescind the yellow card and you give the penalty. Yeah. So that VAR's there for clear and obvious, but penalty's one of the criteria.
Happened was Kevin Clancy, wasn't it? He gave a yellow card to
that was a couple of weeks back.
One of the Rangers players, I can't remember who it was now, and then he changed his mind and gave the penalty after seeing the monitor. So that's happened already up here this season. I
actually, listen, I know VAR gets a lot of grief, but see these instances we're talking about, the Don Robertson one, you'll have a look at the penalty with Johnny Hayes, the offside for what the Rangers were claiming, and then obviously the boy Miłoski then gets the winning goal. A lot of these decisions are actually falling right, in my opinion. So as much as it's getting battered, I still think there's a long way to go with VAR, and I think there's a lot of teething problems, partly because it was rushed through in October. So I still think there's a kind of work in progress here to try and kind of cultivate this to be better.
Can we just focus on down south? Obviously you had the 14 months down there, Alec, and it'd be interesting to get your take on the standard of refereeing down there, and to sort of lead us into that, we talked about simulation or cheating. There was the hand of God in the Preston Blackburn game, and as fate would have it, it was the infamous assistant referee Konstantin Hatzidakis who spotted it, the guy that put an elbow in wee Andy Robertson's mouth.
Well, listen, I think Konstantin would have been very happy with Smodic's elbow attempt at the goal. I think it was a brilliant spot in live time. I think they're important ones to get, because as I said earlier on to you guys, the fact that the Championship doesn't have VAR is astonishing to me with the money it's available. My understanding it's going to be about 9 or 10 million to implement it, which is a considerable outlay. But it's so important to get these things right. And we've also seen it last week with Andy Carroll, a very similar situation, and the officials get it right, because it all happens in a flash. Yeah. And I think these big decisions are the ones that you actually want to get in toppy. So Reece Modic scored an incredible goal for the opening goal for Blackburn. So, no, I think it was an important spot at the right time. It was good refereeing. And listen, I think we all have got our axes to grind. There was times where I was kind of having difficulty with one or two decisions over the course of the season as well. And I think it's just like Stephen says, it's human nature. People are going to get it wrong. Now, see, if we didn't expect the referees to get it wrong, my take is, I look at some of the players at Reading, and occasionally you see mistakes happen and it costs you. And for me, it's exactly the same as the referees, because that type of level, for a reason. We went to play Man United at Old Trafford in the FA Cup, and I thought the standard and the way that, I can't even remember who the ref was, he came over and had a chat with us, because we had never sampled VAR, and he collared me before the game. He said, listen, tell your players that it's important that you play to the whistle. You don't put your hand up, don't react, because VAR will then have a look at it. Don't be standing 40 yards for goal with your hands up. Deal with that. And I just thought the way that he handled himself and the manner and the control of the game, I thought he was absolutely excellent, and I think that's the difference for the Championship to that next level.
It's amazing that VAR has not been implemented, as you say, in the Championship. One of the, what was it, but the 5th richest league in the world, isn't it?
And the thing is, I think it's just about to get a bit more richer as well. I think they're talking about showing live games across the board from 2024.
Yeah.
And I think the finances have gone through the roof, so need to get back. Need to get back in, Stephen.
When you look at it, I mean, the Championship playoff, is that not the richest game in the world? So if that's the richest game in the world, take Scottish football out of the equation. Surely to goodness there's got to be VAR in that league, because there is so much at stake.
2024 it's coming, I'm led to believe.
Yeah. And quite rightly so. And you look at the nature of the clubs that are in it at the moment. You've obviously Reading, where you've just left. You get Blackburn Rovers, you've got Middlesbrough, teams that have got years of Premiership experience, and the money, the wages, that would vastly outspend the SPL. So you'd think that the Championship would have that technology available to them.
Des, the actual level of money that's floating about the Championship is mind-boggling. I mean, incredible money. We think Rangers and Celtic, there's teams down there that are paying as much as Rangers and Celtic currently at the moment. It's only going to go one way, because, as I said, the money is going to increase.
Can't be too bad for an assistant manager as well, then.
Well, I'm not too sure, otherwise I wouldn't be here with D-Mag. But no, it is, and listen, it's moved on considerably since I was a player, that's for sure.
Did you have any major run-ins with the officials in your 14 months down there?
Listen, I'd obviously one or two. I got 2 bookings over the course of the year. We were playing at Wigan, and the ball came to me, and the right back came to pick up the ball, and I thought it'd be a good idea to nutmeg him. and when the referee was administering the yellow card, I was like, "You're hampering the ball players." So that was one, and then the second one was because it made a kind of as if the referee had kind of his backside was twitching a little bit. So listen, there was two letters come into us about decisions that were wrong. One of the officials actually, which was refreshing, came up and apologised about 2 months later to say, "Listen, we got that badly wrong."
Is that right?
It was we were 1-1 with Burnley away from home. And in the 91st minute, Thomas Inska brought down, and he waved it on. And then within the space of 90 seconds, Burnley went up and scored the winner, which was a real body blow. And then on a Monday morning, you get the phone call from the head of the refereeing to say that, sorry guys, he's clearly got that wrong. From where he was, he's seen this and seen whatever it was. And rather than just go, you got it wrong, So anyway, so that was a disappointing one, and so we got it twice. But I thought it was refreshing. I was talking to the guys prior to coming on here. I quite like the fact that the referees have that dialogue. It's lost, but at the same token, I wouldn't want there has to be that level of professionalism that you're not coming back out on the Tuesday and going, we got the phone call, because you're trying to kind of get the right balance and respect for people. I'm obviously out that now, so it doesn't really make a difference. It's not as if you're shouting and bawling when it matters in the heat of battle. So I thought it was very refreshing.
But the reality is, if you'd won that Burnley game, I mean, you and Paul might still be in position.
Yeah, well, listen, if we hadn't lost 6 points, we'd probably still in position as well. So,
aye.
Listen, so, it was a tough one to take. 5 games to go. I'd love to have seen it out. They've made the decision to move on. So, listen, I'm back up the road a month earlier than I thought I was going to be.
Excellent. And your score prediction for Saturday, Alec? 7-3.
Oh, listen. Who's the referee again? But listen, as I said, it's going to be different. Rangers are obviously the team that have got all the kind of pressure on their shoulders, because, as I said, if it's done and dusted, then potentially Celtic will go on and coast the final, and it's a last chance. I'm hopeful that Rangers go on, but I think that's what I'm going for at the moment. It's just hope rather than belief.
Well, we'll be poring over it next week, chaps, that's for sure. All the action coming up on Sunday, and we'll see you next time on Get Involved Referee.